This is the Baby Angel Geronimo Manifesto editions. Is the banner for the broadcast of the Khoodeelaar television channel being broadcast on the internet under the banner of the Baby Angel Geronimo Manifesto editions. In a public place, especially in a public library, what is the basic etiquette that must be observed? Social etiquette, hygienic etiquette. I was sat about two chairs from a person who was sat in front of a computer. But almost every minute, the individual was very loudly clearing his or her nose, very loudly and disturbingly, making it impossible to concentrate at all. Now, this is the broadcast continuing the series on the baby kittens. The black and white one, the grey one, and the Shuri-look one. Last night, what I suspect I saw, the Shuri-look one walking with the real-sized kitten with it. Is near the, almost very near where the criminal evilness personified had met me after the nervous shit. The minicab driver had abandoned the 26 boxes in the evening of the 23rd of November 2022. So I saw these two little ones. One is a kitten-sized kitten, and the other is the Shuri-look kitten one. Is the Shuri-look one is the mummy kitten? And that one has obviously now been able to walk with the mummy, which means that it must have been born about at least a month, or if not longer. Ago, it's all black color as well. The impact of wearing Muslim women who are given jobs in British organizations, businesses, etc., and who wear the kind of head covering, either as a hijab or a sari covering the head. Almost without exception, those that do that turn out to behave with extreme, creepy, insulting mental slavery, especially when it comes to interacting with customers who they perceive to be Muslim or Asian. So this morning I went to the GP's to check on any appointments, etc. And the one at the reception wasn't Shivani, or Sana Aslam. It was a one, I'm absolutely certain is a Siloti one, with head covered in a sari. Completely obscene, disrespectful, absolute mental slave. Where do we begin the process of educating these people? For example, this is the same thing as happened with Ravina Khan on the 26th of June 2013, when she went out of her way to loudly, clearly, repeatedly reassure this John White or John Wright, the by then already described as pensioner. And Rabina Khan was at pains to assure him. They assured the council meeting because that was the platform where this was happening. Of June 2013 to attend to John White, the white man. As soon as he called her, and she said this in many different ways, personified, had done as part of Lutheraman's corrupt cabinet post holder, allegedly, at the expense of housing. On that very same occasion, that I had put about what they were doing, the Tower Hamlets Council had been doing, to hold to account outfits such as Tower Hamlets Community Housing, which had been given the council-owned housing stock. Ravina Khan, whenever it has come to answering anything that I put to them, kind of mumbled. There was no clarity at all. Whereas, in contrast to that mumbling, she was very emphatic, clear, and dedicated to the whopping white man, John White, who actually came into the conversation directly as a result of my question. John White wasn't putting any question to the council on that date. It was me. So Rabina Khan went out of her way to reassure her white master that she was a loyal servant. Now, as a member of the Lib Dems, she stood as candidate for the Lib Dems for the newly boundary change, new constitution, newly constituted constituency, which has been renamed Bethnal Green and Stepney, rather than Bethnal Green and Burr. She, of course, came third. The first one, of course, had to be because of the landslide movement. The first one was labor. Whoever stood carrying the lever, and the people in the livedums that actually make the difference in terms of deciding to put her forward as the candidate on behalf of the livedums are all invariably, all of them are either generally white or generally Zionist or generally racist. So there's a woman in the Tesco. Well, several Tesco employees that wear the head cover and attend the till, interacting with the customers, lower their demeanor and become disrespectful whenever they see Asian customer or what they perceive to be Muslim customers. Happens in the one instead Tesco in Church Street, not far out of Stratford shopping center, going to Glasgow. The one that works in the Bishopsgate Tesco Express in Liverpool Street. And it is extrapolatable by referring to any other, or the one in Pilgrim's Way off High Street North in East Ham, head covering, and it becomes completely mumbly, incoherent. Now, if you take that narrative that away from the Muslim ones and replace that Muslim one with the likes of the woman who was weeping at the CCTH Management Committee meeting in February 1984. That one is of Jamaican, African descent, Jamaican origin, daughter of a Windrush migrant. And if you look at the way that she behaved to the conservative Garnier, was it Edward Garnier that was the senior licensed law trader that appeared on behalf of this woman in a libel action against the London Evening Standard? Who did the work? All the research and the investigation, the analysis was done by me. Not only did she not say one single sentence, in the 8 years that she received the benefit of the highest standard of intellectual guidance and work. She never said once, "Thank you or well done." Where do you begin to dissect that kind of mental slavery and evilness personified? Where do you begin? Going back to the general spread of the imperial hold that the East India Company actually began to spread across the subcontinent from June 1757 onwards up to for 90 years. And if you take the actual events of April, was it April 1919 that happened in Gujranwala, Amritsar, where the Indian born British general Dyer commanded a group of Sikh, Muslim, and Hindu soldiers serving the British command to massacre by shooting the protesters that were assembled. What did they think they were doing? What was the mentality of these soldiers that were born to Sikh, Hindu, and Muslim parents and were brought up by Muslim, Sikh, and Hindu parents? How did they justify in their minds that they should murder, massacre these innocent protesters who were assembled there just to peacefully protest? They were not armed, and they were not likely to get armed because they had been pushed into a place which was inaccessible and they couldn't get out of there. So they were in a kind of cul-de-sac and they were shot dead, each one of them murdered in cold blood. That is the extent of the depravity and the severity of the criminality of the mental slaves that were serving the imperialists. So when they publish a so-called history of Windrush and they give the authorial kind of titles to the two brothers, Trevor Phillips and Mike Phillips. What is the actual narrative that they are, what's the agenda are they kind of promoting? It is not, most certainly, an agenda against racism, against imperialism at all. All the books that are stocked in the libraries that still have library books for lending, these are not books by any African or Asian genuine author. For example, just to take an example of an Indian politician, for example, in Kerala, Shashi Tharoor. Now, Tharoor was an assistant secretary general in the United Nations when the Congress party was in government, in power in India. So he was a Congress member, so he was given the position to represent India at the United Nations. So Shashi Tharoor has actually written more than one volume about the role of the British in creating the genocide in 1943. Winston Churchill actually is the one that the collection. I checked on the collection London Library, London Borough's libraries, whether they have any book by the Bangladeshi poet, well, Bangladesh national poet. He's a Bengali poet. He was born in West Bengal, but Nazrul Islam. There is none. There is nothing. And yet in India, even now, in the 21st century, that book called Simha, and the part played by Sneha Ullal, the character Sneha Ullal plays, was reading a book by Shakespeare. Talk about placing imperial literature right at the center of the film, Indian film. Shakespeare book. Contrast that with the absence of even knowledge of Nazrul, who Nazrul was, on the part of an Indian born, Indian descended woman employee that I talked to last week about Nazrul. She had not heard of Nazrul herself. She didn't know how to spell the name. What kind of kitten did I see on the wall coming from the other side of the building and into the ill named Joy Foundation? Is that the grey one? I only saw a glimpse of the kitten. Now the camera is going to focus on the 21D, that side. So the one doing the